Where were you for the Nicholas Batum game? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show, guys, live here on a Friday morning on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. If you are new to the channel, do me a favor. Make sure you head on over to the YouTube channel specifically. This is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. I'm one half of them this morning, Dylan Davis. To my left, my faithful co-host, Scotty. The Sixers survived the Heat on Wednesday night. 105-104. Nicholas Batum comes off the bench and gives you 20 in 28 minutes. Joel Embiid turns it up in the fourth quarter. We're going to be breaking down everything about this game, what it means, how crucial it was for the Sixers to win this one, and now they are lined up against the New York Knicks on Saturday night to start round one of the NBA Finals as the number 7 seed. Scotty, what is going on, man?
What is up, my man? It is going to be a hell of a series against the Knicks. I texted you maybe a day after we beat the Heat. Maybe it was yesterday, saying how I do believe this is going to be the start of a little rivalry between the Knicks. We know the history. Like, there's a rivalry, generally speaking, between New York and Philadelphia there anyways. But just that Villanova, that Philly connection in New York, that's going to grow the rivalry, I believe, at an accelerated rate, especially if this is a tight series, right? If it's a competitive series, either way, I think the rivalry will begin here. But let's get into we'll start with the Heat game, because that was where the juice was for now. That was one part of the Sixers getting over that imaginary hump that we talked about. There was a lot that went into it. It didn't go exactly how we would have liked it to or planned for it to. But ultimately, we got the result that we wanted. So a lot of excitement around the show here. We're not going to get into anything outside the Sixers today, but we got the NFL draft coming next week. That's going to be really fun
Philly's got
to
a
dig
sweep
into next
finally.
week as well. What was that? Oh, the sweep. Yes.
Finally.
Yes. Finally, man. Finally. So we'll dig back into that stuff next week, but we got to show the Sixers some love today, man.
Yeah. Look, before we get into the ins and outs of this game,
Yes,
before we talk about this man, Mr. Nico Batum, before we talk about Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, I do think you just have to look at the overall landscape of this game and see how people are feeling heading into round one versus the Knicks. I think there's one of two ways you can look at this game. You can look at this game and go, Joel Embiid is not healthy. Joel Embiid is not conditioned. I'm worried heading forward against the Knicks, and if they get past the Knicks, what's coming for them next, because I don't know if he can hold up. Maxey didn't play well. Tobias shot away from the moment again. You know, Kelly only had you can look at it in kind of a negative fashion. Or you can look at it the way I'm looking at it and say, nobody outside of Nicholas Batum played well. Joel Embiid played very well in the fourth quarter. 11 of his 23 points came in the fourth quarter. He had a couple critical passes to feed to Oubre for that end one bucket was huge. He hit 2 clutch threes at the top of the key. He played very well in the fourth, right? But nobody played well. I mean, my God, let's go down the numbers. Tobias Harris had 9 points. He was 40% shooting. Joel Embiid was 6 of 17 from the floor. Kyle Lowry was 3 for 10. Tyrese Maxey was 6 for 16. Kelly Oubre, 3 for 9. Buddy Hield, 3 for 8. Nobody played well outside of Nicholas Batum, and they still beat a very, very tough, gritty Miami Heat team. That's the way I'm deciding to look at it.
Yeah.
Because healthy or not, Joel's averaged 30 since he's come back. So even if he's not in great game shape, even if that brace is bothering him, he's still able to produce. Miami had some answers for him. He struggled shooting a little bit around the rim. I get that. You're not going to get that type of performance from Joel Embiid again. You're not going to get many 1 for 6 from three-point land, 6 for 16 from the field, Tyrese Maxey nights with a couple turnovers. You're not going to get 3 for 10 Kyle Lowry with his experience much in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the positive route, Scotty, and I'm going to say good luck, because the Miami Heat, with that championship pedigree, leading by 12 at halftime, could not put away the 76ers with nobody besides a 35-year-old Nicholas Batum showing up for 90% of the game.
Yeah.
That's a positive to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. I don't honestly understand how you come out of this game negatively. I really don't. Like, I do get it from the first half standpoint. Like, they looked sluggish.
Oh,
They
it's
looked
disgusting.
they looked
deserved
behind the
every
ball.
boo
They're
that came their way.
turning the ball over, right? Like, it was a lot in the first half to be disgusted with. There was guys like unwilling to shoot the ball, right? Tyrese Maxey, I saw being hesitant at times. There was a lot to not like. I do agree there. I think there was a lot of points in the game that you could not like, but when you get that result, when you put yourself in the best possible position going into the postseason now in the first round, which shout out to Paul Reed. Everybody's up in arms over that. I get it. You don't want to hear it coming from Paul Reed. You don't really want to hear it before the series at all. Yeah. But he just said what every Sixers fan said going into the Heat game, that they wanted the New York Knicks instead of the Boston Celtics. You're an idiot if you don't. So I get it. It's Paul Reed. He seems to not know when to like shut his mouth in the media.
Yeah. You don't want to give the opponent any bulletin board material.
But I will say this, and we'll obviously get into that series later. If you can't beat the Knicks with healthy Embiid in the game, healthy Embiid, and Maxey healthy, and they don't have their second best scorer player, then what are we doing here anyway? That's beside the point. Right. Looking at this game specifically, though, I can only come with the positives out of it because, as you mentioned, your two best players didn't give you anything close to their best games. Like Embiid, yes, had a great fourth quarter. He did look sluggish. He looked like he was unconditioned. Maybe that, those last few games he missed of the regular season really costed him some of the conditioning he could have got before that game. But ultimately, what you saw in that game, even though hands are on the knees, head is like down, he's bent over like Doc Rivers on the sidelines. Hey, he worked through it, though. He played through it. It's not that he came out of the game or had minutes restrictions of 25, 28 minutes or anything like that. He worked through it. That means he's getting further conditioned while he's in the game. And then you started to see that second wind in the fourth quarter. And that's what I love to see. The other like major positive aside from just winning the game, while they didn't have the greatest scoring nights, these guys, Tobias Harris, I get it. He got benched at the end of the game. 10 rebounds in this game?
4 assists.
10 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, hitting the board. Like, if you're going to stink up the place from a scoring aspect, if you're not going to hit your shots, then hit the boards. Do the other things. Hustle. And that's what I saw Tobias Harris doing. Kelly Oubre only took 9 shots in this game. He didn't overshoot. He didn't do anything out of the sorts there. But at the end of the game, you start to see him really turn up the intensity. Yep. TR and Marsha in the comments there, they were talking about how the ball handler was getting pressured up the court. A lot of that was Kelly Oubre getting on that full court press and being the head of the snake there. So overall, like even Embiid, 15 rebounds in this game, man. 5 assists. I get the turnovers were happening early, but these guys were doing other things. Even Oubre, 8 rebounds in this game. Kyle Lowry, we already know the hustle he was putting in. So just to give you like a quick overview before we dive really into this game, man, I agree with you. I don't see how you come out of this negatively with the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't see it. I get how you can have some concerns around Embiid. I get that, but that's always going to be there. You just got to ride with that. Like that's life with Embiid. So I can't put too much thought into that part of it. Like
I agree. And
if he's injured, we're done anyways.
In the most beautifully ironic way, this team showed its old colors, but persevered to show us that they're different.
That was the beauty in it.
The first half, come on, man. Like, I'm tweeting it out. I think everyone was thinking the same thing. If Joel Embiid keeps this performance up, these conversations are going to go buck wild tomorrow morning. Because knee brace or not, injury or not, out of shape or not, bro, you were averaging 30 in the games you came back, and then you give us that. Like, I wasn't hearing it, right? Tyrese Maxey passing up open threes, getting in the lane, trying to get a little shovel pass, turning the ball over.
Maxey is the guy I was most disappointed in this game. Just to be clear, he was the guy I was most disappointed in this game.
Right. They scored sub 40 points in the first half. They had double-digit turnovers in the first half. And it's like, at that moment, man, A 12-point deficit literally felt like an 80-point deficit.
Yeah.
Like, even if
You
they
couldn't
went on a
score.
4-0 run and they cut it to 7 or 8, Tyler Hero was coming down and hitting a 3. Jaime Jaquez was hitting a 3. And it was like,
Yeah.
man, I don't know if they have enough firepower to get back in this game. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the Nicholas Batum effect happens. But the Nicholas Batum effect also happens because this man allowed him to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I saw the comments earlier from TR and from Martian Lynch, and they're 1,000% spot on. This team loses this game 100
Absolutely.
times out of 100 times with another head coach, more specifically the head coach of last year, okay? That's getting ready for a big first-round series himself coming up this weekend. But they do. They simply lose this game because Tobias Harris doesn't see the bench. Kyle Lowry wasn't getting it done on Jimmy Butler early. He wasn't shooting well. He got a little bit of foul trouble. He sat for an extended period of time. Cam Payne didn't play in the first half. Throws him out there in the second half. Hits a huge corner 3 for the Sixers.
Yeah.
And then he allows Nico Batum to stay in the game, to take these defensive assignments. Dude, the backcourt violation that him and Lowry drew was critical. The block on Hero basically ended the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Nurse made all of the necessary adjustments. And listen, the shots were falling, right? They didn't fall in the first half. They fell in the second half. And that's something you and I talked about, breaking that zone. You have to shoot well from 3 against this Miami zone.
Yeah.
They did the complete opposite of that in the first half. No wonder you were getting crushed, right? But then the second half, whatever adjustments he made, maybe just shots started to fall. But something felt different about this offense. You felt more confident watching it. That, like, I saw the one comment about the swing pass to Batum on the corner, on the wing. Everything Nick Nurse did in that second half was just perfection, and it got the Sixers a W.
The problem that I saw in the first half with the offense, specifically when Miami Heat went to that zone, was just the force feeding of Joel, like just trying to force it. Like, Nick Batum even said that
Batum was trying to force feed him. Yeah.
He said after the game that he had to make that adjustment at halftime. He was just looking for the big fella too much. Like, he was turning the ball over to that extent. And it was happening to everybody. I mean, Maxey was trying to get it into him. Everybody was spending the majority of their time with the ball in their hands, looking and trying to find a way to get it to Embiid when you should just be looking to attack. And I think that was the difference in the second half, along with a multitude of other adjustments, was that guys just realized, whether it was them being told by Nurse or them realizing to themselves, I'm going to have to help Joel and Maxey win this game. Like, I'm going to have to score the ball. And you could see that. You could see that in the second half. Guys like Buddy Hield, Batum, a lot more aggressive. Even Buddy Hield in the first half, man, hesitant to let it fly against the zone. Like, I don't know if they were just overthinking it in the first half, because, like, against the zone, just let it fly, man. Like, that's how you break the zone. But you mentioned it in the second half. I mean, just opening the offense up, guys showing more confidence in themselves. And I thought the campaign move, I thought that was brilliant. I think he's a guy that you have to consider, especially when you're in those moments where you can't get a bucket and they're lacking energy. He's the perfect guy to bring into the game just to give you some type of spark. Even if it's like something stupid or funny, he might be able to raise energy in the game. In this case, he was able to hit a big shot. He was able to help with the ball handling against full court pressure from the Heat. It's something interesting on the Heat side, just to give them a little bit of credit, right? They played us tough. Jimmy Butler ends up injuring his knee in this game, plays through it, whatever. Jaquez, man, that dude is a hooper. I like his game. He is a guy that gets on my last nerves by all means when you play against him, but that means he's doing something right. Duncan Robinson didn't get any playing time in this game, which was interesting to me. Maybe they went with the more defensive approach. Maybe it's Tyler Hero that takes his PT away, I guess. Maybe.
But I mean, you're Miami.
Tyler Hero shot horribly in this
game.
The
half court to score.
Yeah,
specifically in the second half. And so
in the second half of the zone.
For.
Yeah, and Bam Adebayo, what's up, man? There's a lot of like complaining around like his recognition around the league, but then you see him in these games, and it's like,
I'm so sick and tired of hearing about that, bro. Like, I see
There's
I see
guys that try to
notable
tell you
lists.
that he is up there with Embiid and company in
Yeah,
the center
yeah,
conversation. Like,
bro.
hell no.
There are lists out there that have Bam as a top 20, 25 player in this league. He's not. He's a very, very good defensive center. He's a rim protector. He's a good rebounder. He's athletic.
He
has
fills in the
no bag.
blanks.
Like
But
he is not a skilled offensive
not a
basketball
focal
player.
point.
So
So
me
Duncan
with Bam
Robinson
being a top 20 player.
was actually out according to the comments. So good correction there. But yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Adebayo, it's funny. I do respect his game. Like, I'm not trying to disrespect him. I'm more or less disrespecting the people that try to prop him up as if he's something he's not. But once again, the Heat, they showed grit in this. That zone is just disgusting. I think the other funny thing coming out of this game, there was like this little these comments going around Twitter that the Sixers are figured out if you just stop Maxey and Embiid. And
because that's so easy. That's so
how you
simple
beat
to
them.
figure out. That's so easy to figure out. As if
let's not act like the Heat
run the same zone that the Miami
aren't elite at zone defense. Like, they don't have like a next level zone defense that no other team can complete.
Let me ask you this though, man.
Yeah,
are you? Like we were talking about the fact that if Embiid finished this game the way he was trending, and it's still he only finished with 23 points, and that's a light night for him. But if he finished that game the way it was going, the way Maxey played, man, it was ugly. But you look across the court at their stars, like Jimmy Butler shot
they didn't
terribly. Tyler Hero heated up with 5 or so minutes left. He was awful before that. His shooting percentage is awful the other night. So both offenses were really bad, and I think that's a testament to the Miami Heat. I think that's the way they get you to play.
Mark it up. Yeah.
How is it inspiring that they were able to still win that game the Miami Heat way?
Yeah, I do think so, because when you look at the New York Knicks, I think they're going to try to play in a similar fashion, right? High ball pressure, defensive-oriented team. They're going to try to limit, Maxey and Embiid as much as they can. I'm sure they're going to try to come up with concepts for that. So I do think it's going to be fairly similar. I don't think the Knicks are going to be able to do the same things with the zone, but there is going to be a defensive mindedness there with Tom Thibodeau. So I think to go through a physical game where refs were letting things go, mind you, they were letting it go both ways. There were some idiocracy calls mixed in there. Don't get me wrong. Some obvious misses by the refs that you're just sitting there like, okay, but overall they let things go both ways when it comes to
mean
fouling.
Like when Kyle Lowry got body checked after a
Yeah, like come on, man. And then you have like the people like JJ Redick tried to say that's not a foul. Like, all right, dude. Like, okay. You're usually the logical one, but okay. But no, I do think that winning in that fashion is a testament to how different this team is with Nick Nurse as well. Because it was a coaching duel, as the guys have mentioned in the comments here. It was a coaching duel, and Nick Nurse checkmate in the second half when they were exposed.
Because let's just let's keep throwing shade, because I'm not going to stop throwing shade at Glenn. But if you have that old head coach, if you can't play your way, if the Heat aren't allowing the Sixers to play the way they want to play, we're not going to win, because that coach is going to continue to try to force what we do out there, even when it's not working. And that's not what Nick Nurse and the Sixers did.
Yeah.
And TR's he does not let Nicholas Batum play that much.
No. It would have been Harrison at the end of the game. Whether you're taking Oubre off the court or Batum, one of them would have not been on the court, and both of them had significant roles. Like, Batum did the scoring. He saved us on the offensive end. Oubre did the little things. He had the 5 fouls. He's up in guys' faces. He's playing physical, right? Rebounding as well. Like, they won the rebounding battle, my man. Like, we talked about keys to victory. I mean, what was it? 49-46 or something like that. Barely won the rebounding battle, but barely winning the rebounding battle is a major win for the Philadelphia 76ers. It looked like they were definitely had a focus on that, right? Like gang rebounding. Even Kyle Lowry was getting in there. But I think with Doc Rivers, you're looking at a completely different game, man. You're looking at a completely different game, because what Doc Rivers would have done, and mind you, it's not that it can't work the way Doc Rivers has done it. It's just that it's it's not ideal, And what I'm trying to get at is you could easily go into the locker room and say, you guys are not giving me the effort that you need to be giving me on the court. You guys are not giving me the focus that you need to be giving me on the court. You guys are not hitting the shots that you need to be hitting to win this game. You could easily go into the locker room and say that to your players in this moment, at this halftime break. But a great coach goes in and makes the adjustments to make them do these things. And I think that's the difference, is the accountability part. Nick Nurse knows that he can implement something that can impact this game, whereas Doc Rivers is looking at it like, these guys just got to pick it up. You guys just got to pick it up.
Hey, man. Come on,
That's literally Doc Rivers, like to a T. Come on, guys. Come on. Like, that's it. That's it. And I think that's the difference. It's not to say that Doc Rivers won't ever win anything again in this league as a head coach or something. Like, maybe with the Bucks, I don't know, down the line. I don't know. You know what I mean? Things can work. Things are different with each organization. But with this city, with this team, with the way these guys are wired, I think Nick Nurse is the perfect guy to get them where they need to get to, because they need the next level head coach. They can't work with just a player-oriented type of coach like Doc Rivers, man.
I
just a guy that's there to make
stars happen. Answers, not pep talks.
Yes. Preach, TR. Yes.
Yeah.
But
this game was a sloppy mess, man. But nonetheless, had my heart racing like it was a game 7 to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, because it's almost as important at this point, because
it kind of was, man.
You were 2 points away from probably being sent home in the first round.
Yeah.
That's the difference of the outcome of that game.
Or even more embarrassingly, sent home on Friday night somehow.
I mean,
because you lose this game, you might lose hope. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't want them to be operating that way, but I mean, I would lose hope if we lost that game. Ultimately, like, I would lose hope in this playoff run.
And I thought this was gigantic as well. And you wish they could do things like this on the fly. I guess it took halftime for them to actually sit down and, get the whiteboard out and talk about it and everything. But Miami implemented that zone, and everyone's tweeting about the fact, well, the Sixers look like they've never seen a zone before. Everyone's standing around. No one's really moving. The ball swinging side to side. But the focal point is to take Joel away. Yeah. And they just kept trying to get the ball to Joel in the heartbeat of that zone. Like, you're not going to get an entry pass down there. And if you do, he's got to make a decision like that, because there's 3 bodies on him in half a second. So adjustment to get him the ball out towards, beyond the free throw line, more towards the top of the key, it's more difficult. Obviously, you would like Joel to be able to just say, hey, ball, like, we're on the block. But when it's not there, you have to make the adjustment. And he's talented enough, obviously, to get the ball out the top of the key and move off the dribble and stuff like that. So
let me ask you this. Where do you, honestly, and I know we don't have to harp on this too much with Joel Embiid's health, but where do you think he is, like, physically? Like, if you could just guess, I know there's people that have said 70, 80% healthy. Like, it's confusing for me. This is the reason I ask, because it's confusing for me. Because you do see him with his, his hands on his knees, and there's times where he's grabbing at his knee brace. Maybe it's just uncomfortable. But then as the game goes on, you start to see, I don't know if maybe he just got more loose, but he's getting to the rack in the fourth quarter. He's finishing at the rim in the fourth quarter. He's also contesting everything that's coming in the paint in the fourth quarter. I mean, he did turn it up a notch in the second half. So, like, I guess that's the confusing part for me, because
I agree.
There's times where he does look great, but then there's times where he looks horrible.
Yeah, and again, I do think a lot of it's mental, and I think he even spoke on that, like, especially when he tweaked the knee in the last game he played and then came back in, where it's almost like he's a little hesitant, I guess, to do what he was able to do pre-injury and pre-brace and everything like that. When he shoots free throws, he's probably not able to get as much flexibility and bend on his shot. So that's why you hear a little bit more yelling coming from him and the falling and stuff like that. But I do agree. That's why when I said to start the show, you can either look at it worried and say you don't believe Joel Embiid's healthy enough, or you look at it and go, this is how bad the rest of the team played, and they still beat the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
I don't even look at it that he's not healthy enough. A healthy guy, man, like, and again, I guess it is defining, like, what's healthy. Is he 100%? No. But, like, he played 38 minutes.
Yeah.
And if my memory serves correct, I know he didn't play the whole fourth quarter, but what did he sit 2 minutes of the fourth quarter? So, like, a healthy 7-footer can't play 10 of 12 minutes in the fourth quarter and have his best quarter in that quarter. If you get what I'm trying to say.
And the crazy thing about this game, I'm not saying that it's going to be like this throughout the playoffs, but I do think it's a formula. Like 23, so maybe a little bit more points, so maybe 25 to 27 points, right? And the 12 to 15 rebounds, man, like getting on the boards. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, he's unhealthy, but he gets 15 rebounds? Like, he doesn't get 15 rebounds when he is healthy.
By the way,
so, like,
in that game, that
might be the perfect Embiid for this team, right? Like, an Embiid that gives you 25 to 30 points, gives you 10 to 15 rebounds a game, and gives you defensive rim protection.
Yeah.
Like, Maxey is the guy for me that needs to step up, and he needs to get closer to that 25 points per game mark like he was in the regular season, and give you those occasional 30-point games as well, because I think Maxey, he's healthy, right? Like, we can lean on him a little bit more. But if Embiid can just be that, like, prototypical big man, but with everything else on top of it, right? Like, we obviously know he can score the ball, he can get to the free throw line, but if he's hitting the glass like this, man, and if he's protecting the rim like he was against the Heat, that's really all that matters for me. I think we can find the scoring.
He's not going to shoot 6 for 17. Like,
right.
He's just, he's going to shoot better. He's going to take more shots. But hold on, former co-founder here on the channel showing his face or showing his name. Here. We got a Buddy Hield comment. Buddy Hield was the best player outside of
I can appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think, but again, I think that just goes to how deep this team is and understanding their roles, right? When you think of Buddy Hield, you think of what?
Floor spacer, shooting,
knocking down threes. He didn't do that. He didn't do that this game. But he still knew his role against that specific team with that specific defensive, that zone, what he needed to do, and was still able to, like Martian said, and Ginn and TR, put pressure on the Heat's defense, caught a swing pass, penetrated the zone, kick out, find somebody for a better shot.
He's an excellent dribble driver, right? Like, he can get in the lane. He actually has better ball handle.
By the way, he had 6 assists
than I thought. Yeah, exactly. He has better playmaking ability than I could have ever imagined for Buddy Hield.
This comment got me. Yeah, this is the beauty of it, man. I'm so used to just a bunch of nothing.
It's so crazy.
Absolutely nothing coming from the others.
Because that's the thing.
Difference.
That's the thing. George Niang, mind you, I'm not sure if he ever had like a Batum game like that, like in anywhere near the postseason.
No.
I can't remember one, but he had the capability to hit 6 for 10 threes. Yeah. He did have that shooting capability. It's the other side. He's not blocking Tyler Hero's shot at the end of that game. He's not in the game because he's a defensive liability. No. So it is.
And he's short as shit. He's short as shit.
George fucking Hill,
can't
dude.
Pass
oh
like
my
Nico
God.
Batum can either.
Yeah.
He can't facilitate like Batum.
You just appreciate Nico Batum so much when you hear his press conference after too, like talking about the hero play, how the coaching staff showed him the play right before they go out and run that Tyler Hero 3-point play. And that's the one where he blocks his shot. Yeah, I agree, man. We can shift into that series.
30 minutes is good enough for me.
Yeah.
talking about that game. Let's get to the more important thing here, and that is round 1 versus the Knicks. And to Gint's point, almost every series is going to have to be on Joel, right? Because that's what's expected now. And when you have the playoff, I guess, woes and performances of the past, a la like a game 7, right, of last year, even though nobody played well, but you get my point. There's going to be consistent question marks surrounding Joel Embiid until he gets past that threshold. So every series is going to be on him, specifically this one. They had nobody they could throw at Joel Embiid. Like, absolutely nobody. What's Stephen A. Smith going to tell me tomorrow morning? Is he going to tell me that Isaiah Hartenstein is going to man up against Joel Embiid one-on-one? Who do they have coming off the bench? Mitchell Robinson's not healthy, right? Like, he's not.
I don't think so. Let me see.
Why do I feel like they have like Precious Achua or some shit like on their team now, or some crazy or some random shit?
They do have Precious Achua.
Yeah, they have somebody. They have like 2 or 3 bodies they're going to throw at them. And you know what I see, Scotty? I see foul trouble, foul trouble, foul trouble. That's what I see from all 3 of them. And good luck stopping it. The Knicks can't zone up like the Miami Heat can. The Knicks play, I believe, at the slowest pace in the NBA. You know who that benefits? The guy with a big-ass brace on his knee that doesn't want to run up and down the floor. That's what slow pace benefits, okay?
Yeah, so Mitchell Robinson actually did play in their final regular season game. So
that's fine. It smells like more foul trouble to me, but that's okay.
And they do run Precious Achua as well. So they run both.
Knew he was there. Knew he was there. You know he's hitting a couple threes against us throughout the
season. At least one of those games he's going to be annoying as fuck.
Yeah. But to the second part of his question, right? We'll get back to Joel's importance of the series, but starting on the defensive end, because let's get to their superstar. And if we're being honest, they're one option to create offensively. I said create. I know this is going to be a tough series for Ginn, because obviously we know where his heart lies, but he's also got a couple Nova boys over there. I said create. Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo can shoot. They're not putting the ball on the floor much and creating for this Knicks offense. They're not facilitating. They're not opening up anything from that perspective. OG Anunoby isn't creating for this Knicks offense much. Those bigs aren't creating for this Knicks offense much. It has been a one-man show all year long from that point of view. Who are you throwing at Jalen Brunson? Now, I'm fine with Nick Nurse's way of how he handled Jimmy Butler. Now, Jalen Brunson this year is on a completely other planet than Jimmy Butler. But I'm fine with throwing multiple sizes, multiple different looks at him to try to confuse him and whatever. But are you starting with Kyle Lowry? Can Kyle Lowry at this point, can he keep up with Jalen Brunson enough to slow him down? Oh, all right. Ginn's going with Lowry on bigger guys. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually, I'm right there with Ginn, actually, because I was sitting there thinking Kelly is the first name that came to my mind, just because I believe he's the one that started this last game rather than Batum. But yeah, Kelly Oubre is the guy to just follow him around and have length, man. But the big thing with Oubre, you do have to move guys around because he will draw fouls.
That's the problem. That's what I was thinking.
You're going to have to switch guys.
If you let Batum... we've seen Batum play great defense against Tyler Hero and quick guys last game, but is Nico Batum quick enough to stay with Jalen Brunson time and time again, or
quick enough or smart enough? That's the key, because there's a balance in between there, right? Like, can he get to the spots where he knows Jalen Brunson is trying to get to before him? And that is partly quickness and partly IQ as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can balance that against Brunson. But I agree with you got to throw the kitchen sink at Brunson. Like, if OG Anunoby is going to beat you, then let him beat you. Dante DiVincenzo, he's a guy you're not going to want to let him open for 3, of course. But once again, if these guys are going to be the guys that beat you, then they're going to beat you, right? I think you have to approach it to a similar stance as the Heat kind of approach the Sixers. Like, if Nick Nurse has some deviant plan of like a box and one for Jalen Brunson against this team that he can throw out there, some complex concept of a zone similar to the Heat. I'm not saying it's going to be the same, but something like that, then throw it out there. But I think this is a series where we get to see Nick Nurse's expertise, because you just throw the kitchen sink at Jalen Brunson and you make the other guys on that team figure it out, man. The other thing for me with this matchup too, and the reason I was hesitant about Kelly Oubre on Jalen Brunson was because one of my bigger worries is Josh Hart in this series and his rebounding, the offensive rebounding specifically, second chance points. You need somebody with high energy that's gonna just
Yep.
follow this guy around and be able to box him out. Like keep him off the fucking glass. Like that's something that has to be a focal point in this series as well, man. Because the thing about these guys,
as a 15
Brunson, Hart, and DiVincenzo, they're all gonna try to fucking kill us. Like they're gonna each have like one just ridiculous game or two, right? Like they're gonna have at least each one ridiculous game in this series, just because it has to happen against Philadelphia, right? They went to Villanova, but I do think, you know, just because of Ghent, you know, fans like Ghent, who is a diehard Villanova fan, but also a diehard Sixers fan. That's why I think the rivalry is going to be created, because there's going to be the other part of the fan base that isn't so attached to Villanova.
Yeah, like that doesn't give a fuck.
Like me, that doesn't give a fuck. And that's going to create the rivalry, because I don't have that respect for those guys. Like, I don't care. So I don't have like this soft side for Brunson or anything, man. I want us to go out there and fucking.
Hey, you're forgetting that Philly has its very own Villanova boy right now too.
Fair enough, though. Fair enough. I do care about that with Kyle Lowry. If they were on the Sixers, I would care. But they're not. So we have to flip.
Go buy myself a Kyle Lowry Villanova jersey just for the fuck of it.
That would be pretty tough for the series, man. Yeah. That would be pretty tough.
So,
but yeah,
let me
be fun. I would throw the kitchen sink at Brunson, though, man.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So there's been a lot of talk about the OG Anunoby record with the Knicks, right? I think they're like 20-3 or 20-2 with him in the starting lineup. You know, we remember when they came to Philly on a Friday night in January with OG Anunoby shortly after the trade and kicked the dog shit out of us. That one stung a bit. But I think people are forgetting that Joel Embiid kind of owns the New York Knicks. I'd have to go back and find the record that I saw yesterday, but there's two records to look at here. OG Anunoby and the Knicks starting together, or the fact that the best player on the floor quite literally owns your franchise. What's more important to you?
I would have to go with Embiid. And the fact that, like, how many games has OG Anunoby truly played? What's the level of competition within those games? So on and so forth, right? There's only a really small sample size of OG Anunoby with the Knicks, in my opinion. And to Martian's point, we did see OG in Toronto. We saw him with guys like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam. Like, he had talent around him. So we've seen him before. So I would go with Embiid and his record. The other record that I'm looking at here as well is this regular season against the Knicks. The Sixers were 1-3. The key there, though, right? Embiid only played in one of those games. Now, it was a loss. It was the worst loss of the four, 128-92, and Embiid was a -29 in that game. That was towards the beginning of the season. It was actually towards the beginning of the year. It was in January. The one win the Sixers have against the Knicks this year is that low-scoring game. I believe, it was right when Embiid first went out, I believe, and we played them back-to-back. And it was 79-73 that we won that game. But that was the only win of the regular season. Yeah, and to Martian's point, this ain't the regular season. It isn't. And to that point, it's completely irrelevant. If
Joel is 16-3 versus the New York Knicks, by the way. I think he's okay with playing in the Garden.
Maxey this season, he was one of the bright spots. 3 games played, 26 points per game, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. Oubre was pretty good against the Knicks this year. 4 games played, 17 points per game, 7 rebounds. Tobias was horrible against the Knicks this year, which I was surprised by that, man, because I feel like in the past he has. I know like 3 years ago.
When he was trying to be an all-star and Julius Randle.
Tobias averaged 6 points per game in 4 games played against the Knicks this year. He had 5 points, 7 points, 11 points, and 2 points. So maybe the adjustment is don't play him in the fourth quarter. That's how you beat the Knicks, I guess. But no, it's going to be an interesting series. No Julius Randle in this series, which I think I get it, his playoff woes. I do get it. it's still another guy that can drop 30 on you. Like, let's be honest. He's a guy that can give you buckets. He's not there. That's going to be a huge key in this series. And I'm interested to see how it starts. Where's your confidence level going into this series, man? Where are you at?
You can't see my ceiling, but it's busted through the ceiling. I don't care about this Knicks team. I don't care. Listen, they have been a very good team all year long.
Oh, man.
They've battled injuries. Like you said, Julius Randle out. OG Anunoby missed time since coming over, right? They've been depleted at times.
Yeah.
This New York Knicks team has a 3-game advantage on the 76ers, right? They have 3 more wins than the Sixers this year. And Joel Embiid missed over 2.5 months of basketball combined. What the fuck am I scared of? What am I scared? Yeah, I think it's at max to me. It goes 6, and we win it in Philly in 6. I want to say 5 out of respect. I'll say 6, but this series has no shot of going 7. And I see no world in which the New York Knicks win this series. Again, it is Jalen Brunson versus everybody else. And, before, we could joke around when Joel was off the floor and how bad this team looked and say, you see how, Bailey, we need Joel? You're right, we do. But did you see what other guys can do when Joel's not playing well?
I mean, look at it.
Tyrese Maxey there.
Look at it like this. So I'm looking at just the most recent game by the Knicks, the last game of the season, which they went all out to try to win. Let's not act like they didn't. They went all out. They went into overtime with the Bulls. In this game, I think this is what we're going to see kind of all series. I don't know if it'll get as high.
40, 42.
Jalen Brunson with 40 points, right? 40 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. Yeah. You had Josh Hart. He had 12 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. You had Dante DiVincenzo, 25 points, 7 rebounds. He was 5 for 14 from the 3-point line. They beat the Chicago Bulls in overtime by 1.
Yeah.
I'm it's a regular season, whatever. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
They beat the Chicago Bulls in overtime by 1.
Mm-hmm.
40 points from Brunson, 25 from DiVincenzo, and a double-double from Josh Hart.
Yeah, they're not a scary team, man. I mean,
I don't know.
You could even go back to the deadline. They're a very good team. They're a tough team. But I just...
I would love to have a few of their guys.
When they traded for Bojan? Bojan hardly... Remember how annoyed we were when they traded for Bojan at the deadline?
Burks and Bojan.
He does nothing for them. I don't even know how much he's playing nowadays.
He played in that last game of the season. He played 17 minutes. But it's varied, honestly. I've seen quite a few Knicks games this season, I feel like, and he's been, very seldomly out there for them. I know a lot of people were complaining about his fit on their team. So it is interesting. Now, to be fair with Bogdanović, he is a guy that has killed us at times in the past. So definitely beware. That's the thing. They have a bunch of guys, like, don't sleep on them. And that's the thing. Sixers don't come into this series sleeping on this team. And I don't think they will, despite Paul Reed's comments. Don't come into this series sleeping on this Knicks team. And I think you beat this team. Yeah. I have it in 6. I tend to agree with you just because it is the Sixers. There's going to be one game mixed in
let
there.
It be 6. That's
but
fine.
is there going to be a point in this series where I'm starting to get worried? I don't think so, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. If they win game 1.
I think it's 3-1. Knicks take game 5 in the Garden, possibly.
I was going to ask you, where does the Knicks' first win come? Is it game 1? Where does their first win come?
Well, if you want to talk about the Sixers showing that they're different, I know it doesn't really matter if you take 1 or 2 from, of those 2 games in New York, but they have been awful in game 1s in the past. Then again, those were home and we were favorites. So we'll see how it looks on the road. But It's a great question, man. I'm honestly going to say game 2 because
Yeah,
I
that's
do
how I
believe
feel
the
too,
Sixers
man.
win on Saturday, and then I think the Knicks, can't go back to Philly down 2-0, and they'll steal game 2.
Yeah, what Marshawn said, if the Sixers take 2 games, you have to close it out. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
like Paul Reed, like I don't know. I'm so in between on it because like it's
yeah.
Paul Reed, but his comments are
I'll say
true, and
this.
like I
I'll
don't
say
care
this.
that
There's
much.
nothing. Sorry. There's nothing wrong. What he said is what everyone's thinking. The thing
Yeah,
is, you just don't say it.
yeah,
And you and
yeah,
I have talked about this a lot. I think Git and I used to talk about this a lot with role players.
yeah,
Um, know your role
yeah,
and shut your mouth. If
yeah,
Joel Embiid wants to make some comments,
yeah,
fuck it. The best player
yeah.
in the series can make some
That's it.
comments.
You're putting
Paul
trouble
Reed
on Embiid and
doesn't get to make
Maxi's
those
plate.
comments.
You know, you're going to be playing about 12 minutes a game, Paul Reed, if we're lucky,
Yeah.
right? Like if things are in good shape, Paul Reed's playing about 10 to 12 minutes a game. So talking like that, I get it. You don't want to hear it from Paul Reed. But I do go back to the point of if you're better than this team, you're better than this team, beat this team. The bulletin board material, well, the Sixers have plenty of bulletin board material. If that was the
I
case,
will
then they would
say,
win every series. So
to Gin's
I don't think
point,
it's about that.
I think it's less about the Knicks, even though I've talked about, the Knicks rotational players and how they're this and that. But I think it's less about the Knicks for me and just my confidence in the Sixers team. Again, I know it looked so ugly in the first half on
Yeah.
Wednesday night. I don't expect that to continue. And I think, heading into this postseason with Joel getting back and all these additions that we've talked so highly about from Wednesday night, I think that's what this team is. I think it's what's made them so great when Joel's played. Like, with Joel on the floor this year, the Sixers have like a 65 plus winning percentage.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing for me.
The Knicks are on like a 5-game winning streak heading into the playoffs. The Sixers have now won 9 straight heading into this matchup. So, like, I think it's less about the Knicks not being a good team and just my expectation of the Sixers team and what they are with Joel and Maxey and everyone together.
And I think for me, man, like when we look at the regular season, I mean, I do feel you. The one game that Embiid played in, they did lose by he was a minus 29 in that game, right? But that's 1 out of 4 games, right? That Embiid played. And so when you play a team without Embiid 3 out of 4 times, like I just have to kind of throw it away. Like it's not the same. Like it's
Not at
a
all.
360-degree difference of what the Sixers look like with Joel Embiid, specifically defensively, right? Like when he's on his game, like last game, when he's able to protect the rim and rebound, this Sixers team is a completely different team. So like, Brunson and Hart and all of these guys, whenever you're playing the Sixers without Embiid, you can just get to the lane with ease, right? Like we're already a bad rebounding team. Well, let's take Joel Embiid's 25 or 30 points and his 10 to 12 to 13 rebounds off the court, and we're going to be even worse. So, I don't know. I hate to say like throw the regular season matchups out, but that's kind of what I feel like you have to do. Like if you want to put all your stock into that one game on January 5th against the New York Knicks when Embiid plays, then that's completely fine too, I guess. But it's one game. It's a one-off situation. So I don't know. Yeah, what Martian said, like Nick Nurse as well. Like everything goes up a level in the postseason. So I don't know.
The other thing I'll say, one of the final things I'll say, honestly, because I think we've both kind of given our prediction. This is Sixers, and we'll say in 6 out of respect for James
5
Johnson.
to 6. I mean, whatever.
The other thing I'll say is like, look, I know we shouldn't really be able to pump our chest out due to our postseason history with Joel Embiid and the last 6-7 years, right? Because we haven't gotten past the second round.
Right.
But like to these people on national television, to these Knicks fans, to other people, with NBA content, like what the fuck had the New York Knicks done in the last couple of years when they've made the playoffs, when they've won one series and they got like, what have they done to now surpass the Sixers in terms of they're expected to get by? They're not the better team. They're not like, again, they're the 2 seed. 2 seed to 7 seed was a 3-game difference again, and and the best player in the world was out for over 2.5 months. It's not a competition. It's really not from that perspective.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. It's just matchups too, right? Like you can go across the board matchup wise, and I don't know. Like, okay, like Brunson, I can't even say that he like cancels out Joel. Like, I know people love Brunson right now, and I love his game too. He's a hell of a player. He's a top player in the NBA, but we're talking about Joel Embiid. Even at 80%, 75%, like Joel Embiid, like he gave you 23 and 15 and 5, like on 70% against the Miami Heat. Like, I don't know. Like, and then I look at Maxey, and like that's the next guy on the totem pole. Who's the next guy for the Knicks? Is it Dante DiVincenzo? Is that their next guy?
I mean, it has. I would assume it's OG.
OG? Maxey or
all
OG?
around. I don't think he's as much of a scoring threat as DiVincenzo ceiling wise when he can get hot from deep. But
I don't know if it wasn't Nick Nurse in this series. I think it would be a lot different level. It would be a completely different level of confidence, and we wouldn't be in this situation. So I don't know, man. I am very confident. I'm like trying to work through my confidence, but I am very, very confident in this series, man.
I am too, and it's not even because it's like, phew, we don't have to play Boston. It's not like it's the other end of the stick where it's
I think these games will be tough. There's going to be most of the games will be tough in this series. It's not like I think we're going to walk over them game to game, but I think series.
I'll end it with this, and I know Giannis is hurt, so if Giannis was hurt, obviously I'd rather play the Bucks, right? But my point is, you're not a top 5 seed. You're not a top 6 seed. So you don't get the advantage of playing a lower level team like you have in the past. So if you're a bottom end team, the fact that you were able to get a first round matchup, avoiding the Celtics and Giannis and Dame in the first round, what more can you ask for? The only thing you could have asked for is to play like the Cavs or the Magic. Like that.
Yeah.
That's it. Like I don't know. Like, the Knicks finished better record-wise. That's why they're the 2 seed. I'm still – and Doc Rivers is there. I know that. And Giannis is hurt. But if Giannis is playing after game 1, I'm much more afraid of Giannis and Dame and that Milwaukee team than I am this New York Knicks team. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So you avoided the 2, I guess, star power teams you could have in the Eastern Conference ahead of the Sixers.
Yeah, like the 2 teams you could argue has more star power than the Sixers.
Yeah. And again, the Giannis injury means everything. Like, who knows when he'll be back, how he'll be when he comes back. But if you're assuming, before that injury a couple of days ago, that you could, if I told you the Sixers could be the 7 seed and avoid Boston and Milwaukee, tell me you wouldn't take it in a heartbeat. You wouldn't ask questions. You wouldn't say, well, who do they got to? Oh, they got to play the Knicks. No, you wouldn't care.
Yeah. If you ask that question when Embiid gets injured, right? That's the answer. Like that, and that's what I mean. Like Paul Reed said, he's not wrong. He just shouldn't have said it. It just shouldn't come from him. But hey, the Knicks are going to play really hard. I know that's going to happen. I know Brunson's going to give his all out there. We're going to see some heroic efforts by him. But I just think as long as the Sixers, right, as long as they are putting out the maximum effort on their end, as long as Embiid can stay fairly healthy throughout this series, I think the Sixers are going to take care of business in this series, man. But it's going to be fun to see it play out. I think the whole Villanova aspect, the connections, it's going to make it even more intense and fun. New York versus Philly, man. You can't ask for kind of a bit, like from the outside perspective. I feel like Marshawn said, like 2 obnoxious fan bases, because while we're sitting here saying this on this pod, bro.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what Knicks fans are saying on their podcast?
Well, funny enough, right? Last week I went to my haircut, right? And it was like the most barbershop moment like you could think of. Like First Take was on the TVs, music was bumping, it was just a bunch of dudes talking shit. And we were talking about the NBA playoffs, and I found out that one of the barbers across from me is a Knicks fan. And then a guy getting cut in another chair is a Knicks fan that day. And it wasn't like close that the Sixers and Knicks could play yet. It was just a scenario, and I threw it out there. and they got going, bro. They started talking about Jalen Brunson. This is why I can't take other people seriously. I said, who's the best player on the floor? And they actually hesitated. They're like, well, I'll give you Embiid. You'll give me Joel Embiid? Like you think, like as if it's anywhere in the same stratosphere, you think the best player on the floor could be Jalen Brunson instead of Joel Embiid. Oh, no, that's hilarious. And then I said, and then I'll give you Brunson. And then who's third? And they were like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, stop the conversation right now. Stop. So then I said, if this matchup plays out, I might just have to get my hair cut every day just to go in there and talk shit. So
yeah,
it might be the most expensive week of my life, but I'll get it.
I thought we were delusional. Shit. I mean, if you can't admit that Embiid's the best player in the series,
I mean, and then this is how you know they just like other people don't pay attention, right? After Maxey and Embiid, they were like, well, we got Josh Hart and DiVincenzo and this and that, and they're like, who's your next best player? Kyle Lowry? Like, you guys haven't watched Kelly Oubre play basketball this year?
That's the thing, man. Like, X Factor, Kelly Oubre is interesting to me. Like, just like matching Josh Hart's energy. It's interesting to me. But
and then before we wrap up, dude in the other chair, right? Not one of the barbers, another client. He literally said, like, someone said, like, why are you a Knicks fan? Because the dude Ron, the barber, is from like North Jersey or whatever, so that's why he's a Knicks fan. Yeah. And other dude, he's like, what do you mean? It's like, it's hard not to be a Knicks fan from around here.
What?
I was like, what are you talking about? What? You live 15 minutes from the complex. You live over an hour away from Madison Square, 2 hours away from Madison Square Garden. What are you talking about?
It's not like the Knicks are good.
No.
It's not like they were good while I mean, I guess they had the mellow years,
but I might have to lay a little wager. If the Sixers win, I want Ron to cut my hair for free.
Yeah.
And if they lose, I'll have to switch to Ron for a week or so, for a month or so.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, see if they go for it. I don't want to like disrespect my guy by like leaving him for like a month or something, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Barbers take that loyalty shit to another level, bro. They're like I won't even book if he's not available because I'm like, I don't want to show up and he's cutting someone and I'm like across from him getting cut by someone else. So,
Quick question: is this the most toxic matchup of the first round?
Without a doubt. In the Eastern Conference specifically, like I mean, I guess if you look out west, with the Clippers and Mavs like history the last couple of years and everything like that. I think you could look at it from that perspective, but like, absolutely.
Minnesota
the Nuggets Lakers play each other too, so that's another one that's had some history in the past.
The West is stacked though.
And not to mention we talk about it all the time. East Coast, West Coast, man. There's levels to intensity and passion and fandom, right? So,
but toxic, I think we got it. I think we got
the whole barbershop will be throwing hands if that happens then, but. Whole barbershop. But no, I'll make them put like the 76 on the back of my hair or some shit. What's the name? Yeah, I think the Clippers are gonna lose in the first round too, man. Kawhi hasn't been healthy in a minute.
They're gonna punch PG's ticket to Philly in the first round.
Playoff Harden, not happening. But so anyway, with that said.
Let's go.
That is going to do it for this Friday edition of the Phaithful Fanatic Show. We don't want to commit because a lot of two different things are going to be happening tomorrow afternoon. But
4:20 tomorrow. I mean, let's be honest.
Scotty and I will be together tomorrow. A pregame might happen live in person.
We're going to try.
Can't promise it. So Martian, TR, might happen.
We'll get you some footage at least, if not.
Possible. I've always thought about that. Like I'm gonna literally I've always thought about how people like record like the room, like Barstool will record the watch party. I've always thought about doing that shit, and then I'm like, dude, I say way too much aggressive shit like while watching a game like that. I can't do that, man. Like. No children ever would be allowed to see what I'm saying in the New York Knicks or television.
And Marshawn, the problem with the stream on 420 is that YouTube is not 420 friendly. And so I think
the other problem is not only is it 420, I'm also going to have Scotty heavily intoxicated by 6 p.m. So
Yeah, I might say something that I regret. So. Yeah, I don't know. I'm best to be off the air when I'm intoxicated, I think, but
yeah,
we'll see, we'll see. Maybe
as
we
are
get it
most
out of the way
people.
early, but we'll
Yeah,
see. We'll see, man.
as are
No
most
promises.
people.
Monday
But
though, for sure.
now, with that said, that is going to wrap up this week of the Phaithful Fanatic Show. If we're not live tomorrow, we will be back with you Monday morning, breaking down Game 1 of the Sixers Knicks. Hopefully, it's a positive show. Hopefully, the
Yes,
Phillies have
sir.
another
I
sweep
need
under
that.
their belt against the shitty White Sox. And it is also NFL Draft Week. So we're going to be talking birds, draft, and more stuff all next week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Peace, everybody. Go Sixers.